What's up, motivators? Welcome back. It's Kevin. This is Pure Bullfit.
Let me talk to you.
Today we are going to talk about the squat and how to safely do it. There's been a lot of talk, especially recently, about this movement because unfortunately there was a tragic accident that cost someone their life. I want to go over some of the safety strategies that you can use because I truly believe, like guys like Zach Tellender, that while not everybody technically has to squat, if you can, I believe it should be a fundamental part of your training. Obviously there is individual morphology, there's all of these things that go into it, but if you can squat, it's one of the biggest bangs for your buck. Now, I want to be really clear. I am inspired to make this video because of that tragic incident, but I am not going to be naming, tagging that individual out of respect for his family and everything that's going on there. I am also not going to be including any parts of the video that led to that tragic loss of life. I don't think that that's appropriate. But if you really want to know more about it, I would direct you to the videos of Greg Doucette or Squat University. I feel that they handled the subject matter respectfully, and those are the places I would go to find out specifically about that situation more. But because of that situation, there has been a lot of talk about whether or not the squat is a movement that people should do, whether or not it is safe to do, and I strongly feel that it is. It's not any more injurious than any other exercise, and you can do it safely even with really heavy weight. The part where I disagree with some of the other people who have talked about this subject to this point is they focused on the weight being used and said, don't lift beyond your capability. And I just don't think, for a couple of reasons, that is a reasonable conclusion. First and foremost, people who are chasing strength, people who participate in strength sports, particularly strongman and powerlifting, they are going to test themselves. Young people, people who are new to the gym, they're going to want to see what they're capable of, so they are going to take risks. So instead, I'd like to address that behavior. Since people are going to do it anyway, how can we do it and mitigate risk to almost zero? So where we can lift heavy, we can challenge ourselves, even when our performance undulates and we think we've got it in the tank, and maybe we don't, how we can do this safely, because we really can, even with exceptionally heavy weights, as I'll show you here today. To start, I'd like to go over the basic setups for the safety equipment that we're going to use. This right here is a monolith. The primary function of this is irrelevant to this conversation. It is so that you can just stand up and squat directly without having to step out. Great machine. It's my personal favorite to squat in. What we're going to be looking at today is the straps. Now, the second piece of machinery we have is over here. What we've got right here is a combo rack. Now, it might not look like something you'd squat in at the moment, but it's very it's very deceptive. This is a transforming station that can be either used to bench or to squat in competition for like a powerlifting competition. This is going to use a completely different safety mechanism, a biological safety mechanism, than say the monolith or the other piece of machinery that we have over here. Now, this is what you're most commonly going to see in any gym. This is a basic power rack. It's got safety bars, which is the safety mechanism that we're going to be using here. And the key thing between 2 out of 3 of these pieces of equipment is we're going to set this up just below the bottom portion of our squat range of motion. Let me show you. All right, so the setup for this is pretty easy. You're going to want to establish your range of motion in the squat and then set the bars up just an inch or 2 below the bottom of your range of motion. This is the safest place for it. This allows us to squat. But should the worst happen, down in the bottom, all we have to do is lean forward a little bit and we're perfectly safe. Now, a lot of times what someone's going to do, you're going to panic, you're either going to throw the bar forward or dump it backwards, as I've seen some other people like Greg actually suggest how to get out from under the bar. But that's not necessary. If you watch what I just did, I simply lowered to the bottom when I realized I wasn't going to make the rep, and I gently set the bar down on the safety bars. That's all you really need to do. And if you can unrack the weight and if you can get it to the bottom of the hole, you can safely lower it all the way to the bottom of your range of motion and set the bar down. This is the best situation for failing a rep on the squat. It doesn't damage the bar, it doesn't damage you. You even get a tiny bit of stimulus out of the extra eccentric load on the way down, challenging the weight, trying to control it. No injury to you, no damage. I do acknowledge, however, some people are going to panic. They're going to dump the bar backwards, they're going to try and throw it forward, and those come with their own risks. One, damage to the equipment, which always is secondary to damage to you. But this is where we talk a little bit about the back spotter. Now with the back spotter, Ideally, as has been covered by guys like Greg, they're going to want to loop their arms under yours, and they're going to want to track with you in case you fail. They're going to help you up to the top. This is perfectly acceptable. It's just not my favorite, and I'll show you why. So I prefer to use the safety mechanisms we've covered because you can't count on a person to react the way that they're supposed to. Say we're in the bottom of the squat and we're struggling. Ideally, he's going to loop his arms under. Go ahead, Eli. And he's going to help me up to the top, right? He's going to push his hips into mine, sus as that is, and he's going to help me up to the top. But that's not always what people do. Sometimes, when they're freaking out and they've bottomed out, they just freak out.
You mother.
Good. And that's why I'm actually a really big fan of using these instead. When properly set up, you never have to worry about that. As long as you can set the bar back down under control, at the bottom of your range of motion, you, the bar, your potential spotter are going to be fine. With our last piece of equipment, our last setup, I don't actually recommend you use a combo rack unless you already know what you're doing and you have a little bit of help. With a combo rack set up in the squat position, obviously minus this rack, you're going to be able to perform squat to competition depth, to competition style right here. But this requires live spotters, and usually multiple. You can get away with a back spotter, but you already know my feelings on that. When one of our guys, one of our athletes like Eli over here, they usually hit us up in the group chat, and anywhere between 3 and 7 of us is going to show up in order to spot properly, as you can see here. The reason that we need live spotters is you might look down here and see these braces and go, oh, well, those are safety bars, just like over in the power rack. But they're not really. Those are for the bench press. The problem is if you attempt to use these to bail out a squat, it's going to tip backwards under any significant load. The whole apparatus is going to come flying back at you. I'm sure you can find, with a quick Google search, you can find examples of that happening on the internet. So this is what it typically looks like. You've got at least 3 people, a back spotter and 2 side spotters, and upwards of 5 depending on the load. You'll see 5 at a competition, and that's just to keep the spotter safe. Now this doesn't reduce the risk to 0. There was an instance at a recent USPA meet where I saw even a veteran lifter, somebody who's very competitive in his weight class, panic under the bar and still dump it backwards. That bar flew backwards, and had it not been for the side spotters and the 2 additional spotters helping them, the center back spotter's legs would have been broken from the force of that bar going backwards at the angle it's headed. So take spotting very, very seriously. Our guys here, our serious athletes, know if they need help, let us know a couple of days in advance. If it's Saturday at 10 a.m. or whatever, we're all going to show up, we're all going to help you, we're going to hype you up. But not everybody has access to that. What most people have access to is, in fact, the power rack like we showed, and some folks are going to have access to a monolith. But here's the thing. When it gets down to it, if you are truly going to be challenging yourself for either a rep PR or a weight PR, and you do not have access to these safety mechanisms, you should not be attempting that lift. If you reduce the risk to as close to 0 as possible, you're likely to never, or very, very rarely, or not seriously ever get hurt. But I'm not just going to talk about it, I'm going to show you. We're going to work up to a heavy weight for me, a weight that I actually legitimately fail at, to show you that this works and that this is in fact safe. Obviously that wasn't it. To wait. All right, so this is 455 pounds, or a little over 200 kilograms. I'm pretty sure that I've got this one. I've hit it every time during this training block thus far, but it's the heavier end of what I'm capable of at the moment. So this will likely be the last successful rep that I have. I'll jump from here to 470 or 480, perhaps even 500 pounds, and I'll show you that you can fail with a weight that you're not going to be able to hit perfectly safely. So as you can see, that was a bit of a grinder. It wasn't terrible, but I also wasn't in any danger whatsoever. If that had gone wrong, all I would have to do, as you'll see here, probably on this next rep, lean forward. So I forgot, this is the Texas squat bar. That last one was actually 465. So if I'm gonna fail under a weight, it might as well be the best I've ever managed to lift. This is 505 pounds. This would match a personal record. I do not think that I'm at my strongest with a squat right now. I'm on a cut. I've lost 11 pounds. So if I were able to hit this, it would be amazing. Super excited. It's not going to happen though. So I do believe this is where I'm going to be able to show you what failing looks like. All right. So I'm actually going to give this what I got. I'm actually going to try. And I'm not going to lie, there is a small part of me that hopes that I get this and that we have to do the failed rep on the next lift. But this is exactly the attitude that I was talking about. We want gains. We want progress. People are going to attempt what they previously could not do. It is very much part of progressive overload. So the key should be focusing on how to do so safely. That's why the safety mechanisms is my focus, and not just saying don't squat what you can't handle. Oh, fuck, that wasn't even close. I knew that going down, that wasn't even close. Oh. See what I'm talking about? At no point in that entire lift was I in danger. Even with a weight you're not currently capable of handling, you are capable of lifting safely. You are capable of failing safely. And that's the point that I wanted to make. I very much believe in challenging yourself, finding out what you're capable of. Even at 44 years old, as a disabled person, low T beta male that I am still finding ways to continue to grow in my strength. I'm regaining ground that I lost. I'm finding new ways that I'm stronger than ever. The journey's never over. Sometimes the goals shift, sometimes they change. But none of that is possible without challenging yourself. But none of that is sustainable without challenging yourself intelligently or safely. So if you're currently one of those people who's squatting outside the power rack, I hope this video changes your mind. It's much safer to use the mechanisms that you have in place. If you don't have access to any of this stuff, by all means, learn how to control the weight and dump it appropriately. Maybe even employ some training methodologies like never going beyond 2-hour RIR. Leave 2 reps in the tank at all times. At the end of the day, the person who makes the most progress is the person who can train the most consistently. So maybe you don't want to do the squat, maybe it's not for you, maybe you have something that is preventing you from doing it. These tips, this philosophy of approaching it from a risk mitigation standpoint, but still challenging yourself, works with any movement. And I would encourage you to find the ways to lift safely and lift hard. All right, guys, that's it. That's the video for today. I hope you liked it. If you did, they got a button for that. If you didn't, they got a button for that too. Either way, let me know about it in the comments section below. I know that I've been away for a long time, but we actually do have more videos coming out. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. And until I do, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and find some time to go fit yourself.